Zena Okafor adjusted the strap of her delicate black dress, her fingers trembling slightly as she stepped into the private art gallery in Itaewon. The dim lighting highlighted her illustrations, each one a fragment of her quiet, introspective world. Her natural curls cascaded down her back in perfect spirals, catching the warm glow of the overhead lights. Normally, she would have avoided such a crowd, but tonight she needed validation for her work. That's when she noticed him. Jamin stood near the far end, a glass of whiskey in hand, observing the room with calm intensity. His presence was magnetic, broad shoulders beneath a tailored black suit that hinted at a perfect physique, long shoulder-length hair pulled back loosely, and intricate tattoos peeking from his collar and sleeves. His eyes, so dark they seemed to look right through her, settled on Zena with an intensity that made her breath catch. Most people would have been intimidated, but Zena felt something different. A shiver of curiosity mixed with anticipation. "You're Zena Okafor, right?" His voice was low, smooth, commanding attention effortlessly. The slight Korean accent only added to his appeal. She nodded, words caught in her throat. Her heart raced, unsure whether it was fear or excitement. "I've seen your work online," he continued, stepping closer. "The way you capture moments no one else notices. It's rare." Zena blinked, feeling warmth creep up her neck. Compliments from strangers often made her uncomfortable, but something about his gaze made her feel seen. Not just her art, but her. Jamin tilted his head, studying her face with unabashed interest. "You're smaller in person than I imagined. Delicate. Intriguing." His words were deliberate, measured, but laced with a subtle challenge. She swallowed hard, aware of the fluttering in her chest. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the soft music playing in the background. He smiled, a slow, knowing curve of his lips that made her knees weak. "You have potential beyond these walls. I'd like to discuss a private commission with you. Something more exclusive." Her pulse quickened. Exclusive could mean anything. She wanted to run, to hide, but a strange pull kept her rooted in place. "I'd like that," she managed, her fingers brushing the edge of her sketchbook nervously. Jamin's eyes glimmered with satisfaction, as if he had already won a game she didn't even know she was playing. "Good," he said softly, almost a whisper. "I enjoy challenges, and I have a feeling you might enjoy them too." Zena's breath hitched, unsure if it was anticipation, desire, or fear, or all three. Something told her that meeting Jamin would change her life in ways she wasn't prepared for. The following evening, her phone buzzed with a message she hadn't expected. * dinner at my penthouse. 8 p.m. Wear something comfortable but memorable. Jamin *. Her fingers froze over the screen. Her logical mind screamed to decline. He was a billionaire, a stranger, a storm she wasn't sure she could weather. But a part of her, the part that had always craved attention, adventure, desire, tingled at the thought. When she arrived at his building in Gangnam, the elevator opened onto a penthouse bathed in golden light. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed Seoul sprawled beneath them, the Han River winding through the city like a silver ribbon. Every detail spoke of wealth, control, and precision, much like Jamin himself. He greeted her with a slow, appraising smile, his tattoos more visible now in a simple black shirt rolled to his elbows. "Zena," his voice carried the same calm authority as before, but now it was closer, more intimate. He stepped aside, gesturing toward the dining area. "I hope you didn't have trouble finding it." "No, not at all," she stammered, aware of the rapid thump of her heart. Dinner was exquisite, each course served with deliberate elegance. But Jamin didn't focus on the food. He focused on her, the way her hand trembled slightly as she reached for her glass, the subtle flush creeping across her brown skin when he complimented her work. "You have a certain delicacy," he said between bites. "I like women who are understated, quiet. But I also enjoy discovering what lies beneath that calm surface." Zena swallowed hard, suddenly aware of how vulnerable she felt under his gaze. "I don't usually interact with this kind of world," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned in, his eyes locking onto hers, holding her in a magnetic pull. "That's exactly why I find you intriguing." There was a dangerous edge to his words, teasing, testing. "I can be persuasive. Do you know how far you're willing to go?" Her stomach fluttered. I'm not sure, she whispered. Jamin's lips curved into a slow, knowing smile. That's okay. We can explore that together. You might discover that there's more to you than you've allowed yourself to feel. The tension between them crackled like electricity, impossible to ignore. Xena sat there, pulse racing, caught between fear, curiosity, and a forbidden thrill. As the evening drew to a close, he rose and extended his hand. I'll call for your car, he said casually, though the intensity in his gaze lingered. Or, if you're feeling brave, perhaps we'll continue this conversation somewhere more private. Xena hesitated, her mind spinning with anticipation and something deeper she hadn't felt in years, desire. I think I'd like that, she murmured, the words barely leaving her lips, yet carrying a weight she didn't fully understand. Jamin's smile deepened, predatory yet gentle, a promise of things to come. Good. Then tomorrow you'll see just how persuasive I can be. Her breath hitched as she left, unsure whether it was excitement or fear, or both, that left her trembling. Either way, she knew one thing. Her life had just taken a turn she couldn't resist. The next evening, Xena found herself standing in front of Jamin's penthouse once more, her stomach twisting in a mix of excitement and anxiety. She hadn't slept well, replaying their previous encounters in her mind, her body responding to memories of his voice, his touch, his presence. When he opened the door, Jamin's gaze swept over her, assessing her like a connoisseur examining a rare masterpiece. You made it, he said, his voice low, smooth, and magnetic. I didn't want to cancel, Xena replied, her fingers nervously fidgeting with the hem of her dress. He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming yet intoxicating. I appreciate that, he murmured, letting his hand brush hers just briefly, a touch electric enough to make her knees weaken. Dinner this time was casual, almost intimate, but the conversation carried an unspoken current. Jamin spoke deliberately, his words carefully crafted to test her boundaries, and Xena felt herself leaning in despite the warnings her mind screamed. Tell me, he said after a pause, his eyes darkening with curiosity. Have you ever experienced someone who knows exactly how to make you respond? Her breath hitched. I don't think so, she admitted, heart pounding. Jamin's smile was slow, teasing, dangerous. Good. Then I have the privilege of being the first. His voice dropped to a whisper as he leaned closer, his hand brushing the small of her back, fingers tracing slow circles that sent heat coursing through her. I want to know everything about what makes you feel alive. Xena froze, her mind stuttering, her body betraying her with a shiver of awareness she hadn't expected. Her cheeks burned hot, and she looked away, embarrassed, but undeniably intrigued. She stammered, words failing her. Shoo, he murmured, his lips brushing her ear, his breath warm against her skin. No need to answer yet. Just feel it, the curiosity, the thrill, the way your body responds when I'm close. Her pulse raced as she realized how magnetic he was, not just his power, but the way he seemed to know her reactions, how to elicit them without force, only suggestion, and the deliberate application of touch. The tension was suffocating, thrilling, and addictive. By the end of the evening, she left with a head full of questions, a heart racing, and a body awakened in ways she hadn't known were possible. One thing was clear, Jamin was not someone she could ignore, and she didn't want to. That night, alone in her apartment in Hyundai, she ran her fingers along her arm, recalling his words, the brush of his hand, the intensity of his gaze. Fear and desire warred inside her. But deep down, she knew she wanted more closeness, more control, more of him. And somewhere in the depths of her mind, she wondered if she was ready to find out exactly how far this dangerous, intoxicating attraction could go. A week later, Xena found herself once again at Jamin's penthouse, though this time the air felt different, charged, intimate, almost dangerous. She wore a simple soft blouse and skirt, trying to appear composed, but her pulse betrayed her. Jamin greeted her with a slow, approving look, his tattooed fingers reaching out to tuck a curl behind her ear. You've been thinking about our last conversation, haven't you? His voice was teasing yet commanding. Xena swallowed, cheeks flushing. I might have, she admitted softly. He stepped closer, his presence enveloping her. Good. Curiosity is important. It's the first step toward understanding yourself and enjoying the experience fully. Jamin had arranged a private room in his penthouse, dim lights, soft music, and a large plush chaise lounge. Everything exuded control and intimacy. He gestured toward it. Sit. Nervously, she obeyed, aware of the way his eyes traveled over her, lingering on the curve of her neck, the smooth expanse of her legs. Tonight, I want you to explore what it feels like to trust someone completely, he said, his voice dropping lower. Zena's breath hitched. I don't know if I can. You can, he interrupted softly, placing a hand on hers, his thumb stroking her wrist. Trust is learned step by step. I won't push you beyond what you're ready for, but I will show you how much pleasure there is when you let go. The lesson began subtly. He guided her hands, showing her how to respond to touch, how to recognize sensations she'd never paid attention to. Each movement was gentle but deliberate, a dance between control and surrender, his fingers trailing along her arms, her shoulders, the hollow of her throat. You're doing very well, he murmured, brushing a stray curl from her face, his fingers lingering against her cheek. You're learning quickly, faster than I expected. Her confidence grew with each touch, each whispered instruction. She felt desire unfurling within her, mingled with a sense of empowerment she hadn't known she could possess. When he finally leaned close, brushing his lips against hers for the first time, it wasn't just erotic, it was transformative. She felt safe, exhilarated, and alive all at once, her hands instinctively reaching for him, pulling him closer. By the time she left that night, her mind and body were spinning. She realized this was no ordinary connection. Jamin was awakening something inside her she had hidden even from herself. And deep down, she knew she would return, eager to see how much further he could take her. If you're enjoying Zena and Jamin's story, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more emotional, captivating narratives that will keep you hooked until the very end. The rain tapped softly against Zena's apartment window in Hyundai as she sat curled on the sofa, sketchbook open but untouched. Her thoughts kept returning to Jamin, his commanding presence, the way he made her heart race, the way he had awakened something inside her she had long buried. Her phone buzzed. A single message from him. *, come by. I want to show you something personal. *. Her pulse quickened. Hesitation fought against curiosity, but something told her that this wasn't just another lesson. It was a step deeper into his world. When she arrived, Jamin greeted her with a softer expression than usual, his hair loose around his shoulders. He led her to his private study, walls lined with books and photographs that revealed a side of him she had never seen before. Do you want to see the man behind the reputation? He asked quietly, gesturing to a photograph of a younger Jamin sitting alone on a yacht, looking out at the horizon with hollow eyes. Zena nodded, intrigued. He sat beside her, close enough that she felt the warmth radiating from him, the scent of his cologne wrapping around her senses. I grew up thinking power and wealth could protect me, he admitted, voice low and intimate. But they can't protect you from loneliness, from missing connection, from wanting someone who actually sees you. Zena's heart ached at the rare vulnerability in his tone. She hesitated, then whispered, I know what that feels like. I've always been alone. People see my work, but they don't see me. And I'm afraid. Her voice cracked slightly. Afraid of letting anyone in. Afraid of being used. He turned to her, gently brushing a curl from her face, his fingers lingering against her skin. I don't want to use you. I want to understand you, to see you. And if you let me, I'll show you that desire can exist alongside care, trust, even love. Tears welled in her eyes, emotions she had buried for years finally surfacing. She had been cautious, shy, lonely. But here was someone who not only ignited her desire, but offered safety in exploring it. Jamin leaned closer, his lips brushing hers tenderly, then deepening into something more intense, more consuming. We can explore all of this together, he whispered against her mouth. But it starts with honesty, with trust. Can you do that for me? Zena nodded, her breath hitching, realizing she could. More than that, she wanted to. By the end of the evening, she had shared parts of herself she had never spoken aloud. And Jamin had done the same. Their connection deepened, becoming something beyond physical pleasure, an intoxicating mix of desire, trust, and emotional intimacy. And as she left that night, she realized something startling. She was no longer afraid of him. She was starting to crave him in every way. Xena's heart raced as she stepped into Jaemin's penthouse that evening. The Seoul skyline glittered behind him, casting shadows across his sharp features, his tattoos visible along his forearms as he rolled up his sleeves. He was waiting, relaxed yet impossibly commanding, as though every inch of the room had been designed to draw her closer. "You're here," he said softly, a hint of amusement in his voice. "I was wondering if you'd come." "I wanted to," she admitted, her voice trembling slightly. Even now, standing so close, she felt a swirl of fear and longing she couldn't name. He approached, slow and deliberate, his presence engulfing her. "Good, because tonight we'll explore what you've been hiding from yourself." His words sent a shiver down her spine. She wasn't sure whether it was fear, anticipation, or the thrill of the forbidden. The evening started innocuously, small touches, subtle guidance, playful teasing. But gradually, Jaemin's hands lingered longer, brushing over her shoulders, tracing the line of her arms, his fingers skimming the curve of her waist, sending heat coursing through her. "Xena," he murmured, tilting her chin up to meet his gaze. His eyes were dark, intense, almost hypnotic. "You've been resisting, but I can feel what you want. Can you feel it too?" Her lips parted, her breath catching. "I think so," she whispered, barely audible. He smiled, slow, knowing, and leaned in closer. Time seemed to stretch as their lips hovered, almost touching, until finally he pressed them together. The kiss was electric, bold, consuming, a mixture of control and surrender that left her knees trembling, her hands clutching at his shirt. Every touch, every brush of his lips against hers, every stroke of his fingers along her spine ignited a fire she had long tried to ignore. Jaemin pulled back just slightly, his forehead resting against hers, his breath warm against her lips. "There," he said softly. "Do you feel that? That's you discovering how much pleasure can exist when you let go." Her breath hitched. I didn't know." "You didn't know what it was like to be wanted, desired completely," he whispered, brushing his thumb against her cheek, then along her lower lip. "Now you do." The rest of the evening was a careful dance of exploration, his hands guiding, testing boundaries, and hers responding with growing confidence. Each touch was a revelation, a lesson in surrendering to desire while remaining in control of her own emotions. He traced patterns along her collarbone, her arms, the sensitive skin behind her ear, watching her reactions with focused intensity. By the time she left, her body hummed with a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, her mind replaying every glance, every touch, every forbidden kiss. Alone in her apartment, she pressed her hand to her lips, still tasting him. For the first time in years, Xena felt alive, consumed by a desire that was both terrifying and irresistible. She knew one thing with absolute certainty: she couldn't stay away. Not from him. Not now. Xena had been looking forward to another evening with Jaemin, but as she entered his penthouse, she immediately sensed a subtle shift in the air. He was on the phone, his tone sharp and commanding in rapid Korean, a hint of frustration underlying every word. She hesitated, unsure whether to interrupt. Xena," he said at last, ending the call. His smile was polite, but his eyes were distant, calculating. "You're just in time." She followed him to the lounge, trying to ignore the tight knot in her stomach. "Jaemin, is everything okay?" she asked softly. He waved a hand, brushing her concern aside. "Business. Nothing for you to worry about." Yet she caught a glimpse of tension in his jaw, the slight tightness around his eyes. As the evening unfolded, Jaemin was attentive yet distracted. Xena couldn't help noticing the framed photos on the mantel, women, glamorous, sophisticated, each bearing a resemblance to someone who had once been in his life. A flicker of unease stirred within her. "You've met other women like me?" she asked, her voice hesitant. Jaemin's expression darkened slightly, though he answered honestly. "I've had relationships before, but nothing like this. Nothing like you." Her chest tightened. She wanted to believe him, wanted to feel secure, but the fear of inadequacy gnawed at her. I just don't want to be just another chapter." He reached out, taking her hands gently in his tattooed fingers intertwining with hers. "Listen to me. You're not a chapter. You're the reason I've been willing to change how I approach everything. You're unique, irreplaceable." Despite his words, A small part of her mind whispered doubts, rumors of past lovers, the glamorous lifestyle, the power he wielded so effortlessly. Could someone like her really belong in his world? Seeing her hesitation, Jamin leaned closer, voice low and intimate. I want you here with me, entirely, emotionally, physically, but only if you trust me. Zena's breath caught. The tension between them was a mix of fear, desire, and longing. She realized that trust wasn't something given, it was built piece by piece. By the end of the night, she had begun to understand the fragility of their connection and the importance of vulnerability. It wasn't just about desire anymore. It was about letting someone in, risking heartbreak for the possibility of passion and love. As she left, Jamin's gaze lingered on her, unspoken yet clear. He wanted her to stay, to trust, and to surrender to him and to herself. Zena walked into the soul night with a head full of questions, but also an undeniable certainty. She couldn't resist the pull of Jamin, no matter how complicated it became. Zena's heart raced as she stepped into Jamin's penthouse, a mixture of anticipation and nervous excitement twisting in her stomach. Tonight felt different, less like a lesson, more like an invitation to explore herself in ways she had never allowed. Jamin greeted her with a slow, appreciative gaze that made her knees weak, his eyes traveling over every curve. You're here, he said, voice low and deliberate. And I can tell you've been thinking about tonight all day. She swallowed hard, unable to hide the truth. I have, she admitted softly, her fingers brushing the edge of her dress. He smiled, a blend of warmth and command. Good, because tonight you're going to let go. Trust me. Their evening began with playful touches and gentle exploration, but it didn't take long for the intensity to deepen. Jamin guided her with a steady, confident hand, testing her boundaries while giving her the freedom to respond on her own terms. Each brush of his fingers, each whispered word sent shivers down her spine, his touch lingering on the curve of her hip, the small of her back, the sensitive skin of her inner wrist. Zena, he murmured close enough that she could feel the heat of his breath against her ear, his lips grazing her skin. This is about you discovering what you want and embracing it. Her chest tightened, desire coiling within her as she realized she was ready to surrender, not to him, but to herself. She let her inhibitions slip away, allowing the thrill of anticipation and the pleasure of touch to take over. The night unfolded in a series of small, exquisite revelations. Every touch, every caress, every guiding whisper opened a new door in her mind and body. She discovered sensations she hadn't known existed, sensations that made her feel alive, powerful, and wanted all at once. Jamin watched her transformation with quiet intensity, guiding her, never forcing, yet pushing her to embrace her desires fully. His hands explored with deliberate slowness, his lips trailing along her neck, her collarbone, his teeth grazing gently against her skin in ways that made her gasp. When their lips finally met in a heated, lingering kiss, it was more than just passion, it was liberation. His tongue traced hers with skillful precision, his hands pulling her closer until there was no space left between them. By the time the night drew to a close, Zena felt transformed. She had surrendered control, not out of fear, but out of trust and the undeniable thrill of exploring herself alongside someone who truly saw her. As she left, Jamin's hand brushed hers, a silent promise lingering in the air. She realized she craved more than just his guidance. She craved him entirely, body and soul. And for the first time, Zena understood that surrendering didn't mean losing herself. It meant finding the courage to fully embrace desire, intimacy, and trust, the very things she had always feared. Zena's phone buzzed late one night with a frantic message from Jamin. Need you now. Her heart raced as she hurried to his penthouse, dread and curiosity warring inside her. When she arrived, Jamin stood by the window overlooking the Han River, jaw clenched, eyes shadowed with worry, a rare crack in his otherwise controlled demeanor. What happened? She asked softly, stepping closer. Business complications, he admitted, his voice tight. I need someone I can trust right now. Someone who sees me, not the billionaire, not the facade. Zena's chest tightened. In that moment, she realized just how deeply she had fallen for him and how much he relied on her. Fear of inadequacy flared briefly, but she pushed it aside. I'm here, she said firmly. Whatever you need, I'll be here. Jamin turned, his stormy eyes searching hers. You mean that? She nodded. I do. The crisis forced them to confront more than just external pressures. Jamin shared vulnerabilities he had never revealed before, insecurities, past mistakes, the loneliness that even wealth couldn't cure. And in turn, Zena shared her fears, her doubts, the moments she felt small and unseen. Together, they navigated the tension, leaning on one another for support. The storm outside mirrored the one between them, but instead of breaking apart, it bound them closer. Later, when the chaos subsided, Jamin pulled her into his arms, their bodies pressed together, his fingers tangling in her curls. You've proven something tonight, he murmured against her hair. You're not afraid to see me as I am, to trust me and be trusted in return. Zena's breath hitched, emotions mingling with desire. I trust you, she whispered. Jamin's lips brushed hers softly, then deepened into a kiss filled with gratitude, need, and promise. His hands roamed her back, pulling her impossibly closer, and she felt the full weight of his desire pressing against her. In that moment, they weren't billionaire and shy artist, they were simply two people who had found solace, desire, and connection in each other. By the end of the night, Zena realized the truth. Love and passion weren't about perfection. They were about trust, vulnerability, and surrendering to the person who truly saw you. And in Jamin, she had found all of that and more. The penthouse was quiet except for the soft hum of soul below. Zena stood by the window, watching the skyline glitter, a sense of calm and anticipation coursing through her. She had come a long way from the shy, lonely woman unsure of her desires to someone who embraced them fully with confidence and trust. Jamin entered silently, his gaze immediately finding hers, his tattooed arms visible in the simple black shirt he wore. You look radiant, he said, voice low and intimate. Zena felt a flutter in her chest, a familiar mixture of desire and tenderness. I feel ready, she whispered. Ready for everything. He smiled, stepping closer, his hands tracing the curve of her waist with deliberate care, his fingers slipping beneath the fabric of her dress. Then let's not hold back, he murmured. What followed was a culmination of everything they had explored together, touches, whispers, and kisses that left them both trembling. Jamin's dominance was tempered by his care. Every movement, every caress made Zena feel cherished, desired, and empowered all at once. She surrendered fully, not out of fear, but out of trust and longing. Each kiss, each touch, each whispered word became a conversation between their bodies and hearts. Pleasure and intimacy intertwined seamlessly, building a connection that was physical, emotional, and unbreakable. His hands explored every inch of her, learning what made her gasp, what made her arch into his touch. Her fingers traced the lines of his tattoos, discovering the stories etched into his skin as he discovered every secret her body held. Hours passed like minutes, until finally they collapsed together, bodies entwined, hearts pounding in synchrony. Zena rested her head on Jamin's chest, feeling the steady beat beneath her ear, his fingers gently stroking her curls. You've changed me, he murmured. Not just tonight, but completely. You've made me want more than power, more than control. You've made me want us. Zena smiled, a mixture of contentment and desire. And you've shown me that I can embrace everything I've been afraid of and still be safe, still be wanted. They held each other through the night, wrapped in warmth, passion, and trust. The soul lights shimmered around them, a silent witness to their journey, from hesitation to surrender, from loneliness to connection, from desire to love. By morning, Zena knew with certainty that nothing would ever be the same. She had discovered herself, her desires, her strength, and the intoxicating joy of being seen and cherished by someone who truly understood her. And with Jamin by her side, she was ready for whatever came next, ready for a lifetime of passion, love, and partnership. If this story touched your heart and awakened your desires, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more emotional, passionate, and captivating stories like this one. Hit that like button if you enjoyed Zena and Jamin's journey from strangers to soulmates, and drop a comment below telling me what you loved most about their story, which moment made your heart race, or what you want to see in the next story. Your support means everything to me, and I can't wait to bring you more unforgettable tales of love, passion, and transformation. Thank you for watching until the very end, and I'll see you in the next story, where passion knows no bounds.